Hi everyone. The segment this week is Suffering and Exile. And so we've had a lot of questions come our way about, where is God in the midst of all this? Or how do we, in terms of our faith life, make sense of this? And there, a lot of different questions. So we're going to be just sharing some reflections today that hopefully that can help all of you. One that I've had asked me is, is this kind of like a punishment from God? So I don't know if either of you guys want to reflect on that one a little bit.
One thing is definitely, I wouldn't say it's a punishment from God, but I guess God permits different things that happen to help us maybe understand His plan and to get closer to Him, to get closer to one another.
During Jesus' time, it was often thought that if something bad happened to someone, that because maybe they had sinned or one of their ancestors had sinned. And somebody even asked Jesus at one time when that tower fell on some people in Siloam, and he didn't go with that. So again, we don't have all the answers, but we look to Jesus on when people are suffering of how God is toward the suffering in us. So we believe God's with us even during suffering times.
Yeah, and I think even when we use that word punishment, and I talked about this last week on the youth video, but we have a very negative understanding of punishment. I'm making you feel bad about something. But think about when a parent punishes a child for using the phone at the dinner table or something. It's not a punishment like I hate you, but it's a punishment that says I'm turning your attention back to what's important. Mm-hmm. So even if people feel more comfortable using that language, we could say that he's using this pandemic to draw our attention back to what's important. All the sports games are canceled. There's nothing happening, and all of our attention is focused on our family. It's focused on our relationships. So it seems like whether or not we want to say it's a punishment, he has the great ability to use this for good, and that he turns our attention back to what's important.
I still have a little bit of a focus on the Cubs, but not as much.
And what we're discussing here is trying to find the value in suffering, that there is good that can come out of something so difficult, and especially we see that in Jesus' example on the cross.
What about the anxiety? Because this is unlike anything we'll ever experience, right? When somebody loses a loved one, there's a grief there, or a loss and a fear and anxiety. But other people have the experience of being able to walk with them. How do we, in a society that's never experienced this, go through it? What's the way to go through suffering? We can talk about looking at the good and the value, but what's the way to get through suffering when nobody knows the suffering that we're going through?
Well, I think one of the ways it comes from your favorite saint, Saint Therese, where she basically said, paraphrasing her, but just love could conquer all things, or just by pouring our hearts out with love in different ways during this time to family, friends, whoever, I think it expands the heart, and we're able to enter into this anxiety and suffering in a more beautiful way.
Yeah, maybe one of the graces too in all this is as we relate to others, or for us as we do ministry, it can actually move you to kind of a deeper form of love and reaching out and connecting with people. We're having to do it in a different way, but I think we've all experienced kind of the love we have for the people that perish, and whether there's separation, whatever we're doing now is really, the intention is to help people in their journey, in their faith journey, and find hope and strength.
I think in times of suffering, it's not to deny the part that's difficult, and I think that's the temptation is it's not to believe everything's hunky dory when it's not, but it's to recognize that you have one foot in the suffering, knowing that this is difficult, and one foot in I am choosing to love another person, or I'm choosing to love people in a way that I can offer.
One of the things that's been really tough is that I know our parishioners and all the faithful out there are having a tough time with missing out on the sacraments and not being able to come to church. And this is a big part of our faith, receiving the sacraments. So yeah, any thoughts on that? How people can enter more deeply into the relationship with the Lord, even though we cannot receive the sacraments, or most of the sacraments at this time.
It's not that it's bad that our relationship with the Lord has been so focused at the church and on the sacraments. Of course it's not. But giving us an opportunity to really letting God encounter us at our home and allowing that relationship to take root in a different way.
But I think that's part of the suffering of this time. And for people, and even for the priests, because we really miss the people not being there when we're celebrating Mass.
Yeah, it's a cool fact about our faith that God binds himself to the sacraments, which he gave to us. But he himself is not bound by them. And so there's this gift God gives and binding himself to the sacraments, but not being bound by the sacraments. So there's that question about the anger that some people have expressed, whether it be about our bishop or other bishops or the Pope or not allowing public Mass, and I would say there's like healthy anger, but I would encourage or challenge, I would encourage or challenge and say, what is God trying to teach you in this time? Because he's not unaware of your anger, but can we redirect that anger and say, God, what are you teaching me in this time about who you are? Because we are not meant to live in anger. It's not freeing. But he gives us anger as an emotion to figure out what is at the deeper root of it. So what is God teaching me in this moment? And the second thing I would say is, we as priests, we take that promise of obedience. And there's something that is difficult and freeing about that promise. Difficult because sometimes I'm asked to do things that I'm like, I don't want to do. But freeing because I know that if I lean into that obedience and to that request, that there's going to be great grace there.
Yeah, and I think the bishops are very pained over this reality as well, and just the separation from Mass. I think they desire nothing more than for us to be able to come together. But they also need to be very, very concerned about the public good or the common good of all.
There's potentially greater grace in receiving spiritual communion than if I were going to communion every day with a closed heart and receiving physical communion. But if my heart is open, there's so much that the Lord wants to give to us. Mm-hmm. What would you, like, if we could give a message of hope to people in this time? We've been in the pandemic for 50 some days now. What would be a message of hope that you would give to people?
Well, I know there's a number of people who have lost jobs, or everyone's life has been impacted, and even young kids can really be going through really tough times during all this. And I would just say just stay centered in your relationship with the Lord, because ultimately He's the one who gives us hope and strength and what we need. And it sounds kind of glib, but that whole one day at a time thing I think is so important, because we project out too far. We start worrying, we get anxious. Always be praying for others as well, and whatever we can do to, even as family members, just to get out of ourselves. And some type of service or charity is always a good thing.
I was talking to a young lady the other day who does incredible painting, and we just talked about the possibility of her painting things for other people, and how can we offer ourselves, and even you were just talking about praying for others, turn our mind to other people.
I've gotten a few emails too that people are just saying, they've sent encouraging things to us, just saying, I know God's got this, I know God's bigger than this pandemic, and I know He can handle this, so I really, trust has been a big one, just trusting that God's with us through all this, and let go and let God, just let go and let God. We'll give this all to the Lord and trust that He'll carry us through.
I think I would say that no matter your suffering, no matter the difficulty, if you're living alone or if you're with family, if you've lost a job, or if you're a child and you're struggling with what does all this mean? No matter your suffering, you're not alone. We're all going through different sufferings, and everyone has a unique situation. When it comes down to the core of it, we're all just trying to get by. We're all suffering. We're all finding the good in it. We're seeing the bad, but we're just trying to get by, and we're not alone. Not alone with our community, but also not alone. The Lord is with us. The Lord is with you, and I think that is just so a message of hope.
And it's the Easter season, and Christ is risen.
Amen.
He is the source of our hope, and He's gonna get all of us through this the way we need. So God bless you.
Amen. God bless everybody.
God bless you guys. Love it. God, knock it out of the park. And a lot of cookies.
We still have a ton.
We're okay with cookies.
Yeah, Jesus had a sense of humor.
He created you, Father.